Thank you very much. Well, I was a little bit worried at the start that you were going to want far too much on the sort of valuing nature opportunities. You'll also see that my internet connection is unstable. That's probably showing on your screen. So apologies if I do drop out. I will do my best not to. So my talk is actually looking at opportunities to engage, and that certainly seems to be from the questions and answers we've just gone through, something that quite a few of you are looking for more help on. So what I'd like to actually cover off is just to get rid of the first issue around ODA and what I can and can't say about that, then going on to Brexit and Horizon Europe opportunities, and a few examples then on various different programs and how you could go about engaging if you're not too familiar with that. And also if you are familiar, maybe some things you haven't thought of. And then also for UKRI, which NERC obviously, as you're well aware, is part of UKRI, where to go to find some information and just give you a little bit more thought around that. And finally, finishing on COP26, and I'll come back to what that means for those of you. I'm sure most of you know what that is, but just in case you don't. So the first one, the elephant in the room, ODA funding. As I'm sure you are aware, UKRI has two large interdisciplinary research funds, Global Challenges Research Fund and Newton Funds, which are both ODA. And as you will also be aware, the UK is facing severe financial pressures as a result of COVID-19, and that's had an impact on the economy. And as a result, the UK government has decided to reduce the funds available for ODA work, which will obviously have a significant impact on the work we fund under ODA programmes. I'm not able to say too much about this other than the ODA allocation that UKRI has received is significantly lower than we would actually have wanted to see, and we have a 125 million gap between allocations and commitments. So we are actually working to see what we can do to maximise the benefits from the limited funding and also ensure that we are making the best use of the funding that we have available for the next year. We are looking at potentially for grants that exist on reprofiling or reducing grants, and the chances are we are not going to be able to fund new grants in this area. So for the rest of this talk, I am not going to be covering ODA. I hope that's okay with everyone. Hopefully in the future that ODA can come back and we will have some exciting work. So Horizon Europe, what is Horizon Europe? Well, the previous programme was Horizon 2020. Horizon Europe is running from 2021 to 2027 with a huge budget of nearly 100 billion. And the ambition is to shape the future of Europe and making Horizon Europe the most ambitious research and innovation. A lot of this is actually going to be interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. So they're wanting to actually create opportunities and see how we can actually shape tomorrow's research. UK participation. I'm sure everyone will be delighted now and will have heard that UK government has finished the initial part of the negotiations with the European Commission, and we will be associating with Horizon Europe. What we don't know yet is the actual details. That's still going to be worked out, and it will take a little bit of time. However, the only main thing, which probably doesn't affect too many people in the audience today, I'm making an assumption there, is that we will not be able to participate in the European Innovation Council. So this is if you're going for funding through, say, Innovate UK and that type of organisation. So if you're doing more on the research and engaging in the clusters and missions, you'd be fine. So what do I mean by missions and clusters and everything else? Well, it's a little bit complicated to look at, and I have got a fuller slide set should you want to actually see that. But the main part to say is that the strategic planning for the first phase is actually focusing on pillar 2. So this is this 53.8 billion you can see in the middle. And this is actually looking at the sort of key strategic orientations for research and innovation support and their targeted impact. And it's looking at co-funded and co-programmed partnerships and starting to identify missions that are coming out from that. They're looking at areas of international cooperation and wanting to look at things covering social sciences, humanities, gender, enabling technology, etc. So I'm not going to say too much about the missions. I suggest go and have a look for yourselves. But there are 5 missions. One actually aligns quite nicely with COP26, which is around adaptation to climate change, including societal transformation. There are other areas then which include cancer, climate neutral and smart cities, healthy oceans, seas, coastal and inland waters, which actually links quite nicely to sort of some of the G7 activities coming up, and then soil health and food. Key messages. I thought I'm not going to bore you too much with going into detail of all these programs because it gets really quite involved. But essentially, there are opportunities, and I'm not going to read all of this out because you can read just as well as me for this, but there are opportunities for early career researchers across Horizon Europe, but it depends what you want to do and the level of engagement you want. So postdoctoral fellowships, those are predicted to open in April. So if you are looking at your future, do keep your eyes out, do go to the Horizon Europe site and have a look, and they will actually help. I think there's 2 different sorts that are coming up with those. There's a staff exchange program as well for short-term exchanges. So again, if you're looking for that and sort of starting small, do have a look. Even if you're not at that stage yet or anything else, do have a look so it gives you an idea of what's actually available. And then for the European Research Council, starting grants, which you have to have had less than 8 years of actually sort of finishing your PhD before the call. But that's closing imminently. So again, do have a look if you're prepared for that or start planning for next year. And then you've got collaborative grants. So you can join consortiums and you don't need huge amounts of experience, but what you do need to do is probably identify some of the consortiums, see whether or not your organization is already involved, or just put feelers out there or ask other people. Whenever I started, I didn't always used to be in sort of the science admin side, but if you want to find out, talk to people, just see what they are doing. People are very, very happy to actually share information. And actually coming down to which ones are probably more relevant for this group, I'd say it's going to be cluster 5 and sort of cluster 6, which is on the climate, energy, mobility, and then food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and the environment. Again, just going forward with this, the European Cooperation in Science and Technology, COST. There's an awful lot of acronyms when you're looking at all these sorts of research areas, and apologies if I do go into too many acronyms and I haven't spelled them out. I will try and do that. But do actually start seeing and having a look and see what's actually there. And actually, outside of the normal formal funding opportunities, there are multiple public-private, public-public partnerships that are actually coming through, and you can see I've listed a few there. Again, if you're not sure of any of these or you can't find them for yourselves, I'm extremely happy if you want to actually contact me. I can put my details up for you at the end. To discuss a little bit further on what we're doing on some of these areas. But essentially the key messaging is there, these things are open. We can participate coming from the UK or wider afield. So do have a look, don't be put off. It can be a bit daunting, but don't worry. And then just to give you a little bit of a flavour for some of the research that maps to the sort of NERC classification areas, if you like, and you can see that actually the UK is really intense in terms of engaging with EU funded programmes, and this just shows you some of the keen players that are out there as well by a country basis and actually by scientific classification. So hopefully this is starting to spark a little bit of interest for you. I think, oh, maybe that is for me. Also, there are these things called national contact points. So again, if you've not done it before and you don't know quite where to turn, do have a look, do have a link, do actually click on the link. I'll get my words right. It should be live. If it isn't, again, do come back to me and I can provide you with a list of those people that are there specifically to help you with your questions and point you in the right sort of direction for engaging. So, who's eligible and how to apply? Again, do actually look at the guide and grants and funding information, But essentially, it gives you an idea as to sort of the award criteria. It's always going to be around sort of excellence in research, impact, quality, and efficiency. But, you know, essentially for looking at how to work with this, they are looking for consortium. So you do need to work with others. And again, if you're not sure about who to work with and others, either ask your friends, ask your colleagues, or again, come to us and we can again point you in the right sort of direction for this. But there's a lot of opportunities. And I think basically it's a point of having a go. So if you're interested and you don't want to do contact the national contact points. If you're wanting to do things, think about how you do a proposal summary and approaching of potential partners. Some of these dates you'll see will have passed, but there are still opportunities to see for some of the webinars and information going on. So do have a look, do get involved. And also links on the UKRI website and also UKRO. So UKRO, UK research offices are actually based in Brussels, and they're their dedicated resource to actually help people engage. So do have a look. Now, I've obviously flogged Horizon Europe quite extensively there, and I think it's a really good way for UK researchers to continue receiving funding and actually tap into that resource. But there are also other ways that you can engage. So this is just to give you an example, but there are a lot of student exchange programs or postdoc exchange programs actually out there. And this gives you a flavour for, do I really want to work internationally? I've put IASA up here specifically, which is the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, because NERC actually sponsor IASA, and it does have a lot of engagement. It links to not just EU partners, but partners in America, Egypt, Iran, Russia, Ukraine. So, you know, it does really give you a really good international feel, but it's actually relatively close to home. They're actually based in Vienna. Obviously, at the moment, everything is done remotely through Zoom, which we're all now very, very familiar with. But, you know, it's a nice way of actually testing the water if you're interested in actually doing things internationally. And they don't just do student exchange programs, they also do doctoral exchange and fellowship programs as well. So do have a look at there. Now, I just wanted to move on to Embell as another sort of case study, because Embell, which is the European Molecular Biology Labs, actually is based in various areas around Europe. You'll see here it's mentioning Heidelberg, Barcelona, Cambridge, Hamburg, Grenoble and Rome. But the good thing actually with Embell is it's actually funded in part through BBSRC and MRC. So there's really strong links through to UKRI, and it's also got an international flavour. So it's actually a very, very large organisation, and again, gives you a nice sort of networking group to work with internationally. And you'll see from this that they've got the Bridging Excellence Fellowships, which actually is linking between Embell and actually Stanford University. That closing date for the current round is approaching relatively soon, 6th of June. So again, if you're interested in that, have a look. But you know, that's the sort of thing of how to engage and start looking internationally. There's a lot of things that's actually set up and just gives you a nice, easy introduction to the international environment. Now, coming back to UKRI, I've sort of done a plug so far on the other alternative ways of working. Coming back to UKRI, and you know, I wouldn't really be doing the right thing if I didn't plug what we're doing. We have a new funding finder. It's supposed to be redesigned and really simple to use, and it actually allows you to search in one single location to see by council or multiple councils, and by types of awards and the opportunity statuses. So what do I mean by this? Well, apart from the sort of nice bright colours which you know, UKRI is using as branding, you can go in, you can select, you can actually sort by things that have actually previously been funded. So you might want to actually say, well, okay, I want to look in NERC Space or maybe HRC Space. And by seeing some of the grants, it gives you links and ideas about potential partners or potential areas you might want to work. So it's not just, I need funding now, I want to do a grant or application. It's which other organisations are in my field, in my area, might I want to work to and see if they've got job opportunities coming up. So I'd suggest you could have a look at them for that particular reason. But just to give you a little bit of a flavour of some of the things that are currently live on there. So we've got the NERC highlight topics. This is open. And actually it's addressing specific topics and can last for up to 4 years. We have knowledge transfer partnerships. We've got the Daphne Jackson Fellowship, and we've got the Global Partnership Seacorn Fund. I'll come back to that actually in a minute. So just having a very quick look, you can see the sorts of information that comes up. You can see that some of these are truly international, others not necessarily so, but it tells you from there, so you can see which research councils, which funders are actually taking part in these things. So it's a good place to just go and have a little browse and a skim through and give you some ideas. Moving on to the sort of scale of things, Future Leaders Fellowships. Actually, these are pretty massive. I'm not going to go again into too much detail because you can go and look at this for yourself. But it's for basically, if you're wanting to actually get into world-class research and start your own group up, you can apply for up to 1.5 million. And you can actually be registered either in universities or businesses or other sorts of environments and institutes. Current round is actually closed at the moment, but again, go and have a look if this is something that you think, oh, that could be of interest, and that there's a truly international feel as well to the sorts of opportunities you can engage with on this. And I think you might be having someone in the next couple of days, next week, talk about this in a little bit more detail. So that's from the large to the small. The Global Partnership Seacorn Fund is for, doesn't matter if you're either just starting out on your international career or if you're actually well established but wanting to try working in a different country, different partners. And this is quite a small sort of pump priming sort of fund to set up funding and just set up the collaborations to see, you know, is it going to work? Am I going to get on with the country? Am I going to actually, have we got areas of mutual interest, and can we get that transdisciplinary work or whatever else is going on working? And we've seen actually from this that quite a few of the small projects have then gone on to large multidisciplinary, multi-country programs as well that come out. But this is a nice, relatively easy way just to sort of test the water. Is this the right sort of thing I want to do? So I'd encourage you to have a look and see from that. Again, this round is currently just closed, but again, you know, do investigate. There's a huge wealth of information on the UKRI website to get into this sort of information. And actually, in terms of which areas and which research is likely to come up, what sort of calls do I need to think about, you can either use the funder finder to look forward and backwards as to what's actually available, or you can actually look at some of the Research Council UKRI delivery plans, because this will give you a bit of an inkling as to the sorts of areas and fields that they're wanting to search going forward. So hopefully that would also help. So do have a search through those and a read. Finally, I thought this was quite apt as well. So we saw the Embell example of being able to work with the US, and this is quite a nice example that NERC has got. And actually, you know, NERC, I'm just using NERC because I am NERC and I know it quite well. Other councils have other sorts of agreements that allow you to set up collaborations and work. So just because you're going in through UKRI doesn't mean that you can't actually, you know, engage more widely and engage internationally. So this is actually a joint sort of funding opportunity. It's in responsive mode. So it's research that's curiosity driven. And actually it's aimed for actually having this programme. We know that NSF is a fantastic organisation. It's well trusted, good quality science. So we're able to partner with them and say, you know, have a look at working in North America and come up with a proposal. So that the only thing you've got to do with this is make sure that it is integrated with a UK-US research topic of interest to both sides, so that you can actually have an approach. But do go and have a look on there. You can search for these things a little bit more widely, just giving you hopefully a few areas of flavour of sorts of opportunities coming up. Now, I mentioned COP before, and I wanted to cover COP a little bit more. So hopefully most of you have heard of COP. It's been going a long time and we're up to COP 26. And actually, what is COP? Well, COP actually stands for Conference of Parties, and it refers to the decision-making body of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This particular COP, there are also other types of COP. For example, we've got COP 15 coming on biodiversity later on this year as well. But in November 2021, so this year, the UK is actually hosting the 26th session of COP26 in Glasgow. Now we're saying in Glasgow, obviously depending on COVID, it may or may not be in person, but at the summit you're expected about 30,000 people to typically descend on whichever country it is, and you've got delegates including heads of state, climate experts, negotiators to actually come and start tackling climate change. And you're saying, okay, great, you're telling me about this, but is it really relevant to me? Why are you going on about this other than it's international? Well, I'm saying about this because if you actually look at what COP's wanting to do, there are a variety of campaigns. So each one is targeted a little bit more precisely to the individual government that's hosting, but the campaigns that are coming out for the UK are around adaptation and resilience. And this links to the sort of global warming of 1.5 degrees and saying actually how much money needs to be spent to really tackle this, to prevent the geophysical disasters and just keep, you know, what's going to be the impact on the globe. And you're looking at, I think it's sort of over $500 billion dollars that are sort of coming through from this. So it's big bucks, big money. That's the first one. The next one's on nature. And sort of climate change and biodiversity loss, and saying actually the two things go together, so sustaining healthy life, nutritious diets and economies. And we've seen sort of the impact of COVID on human wildlife sort of interaction. People are saying, you know, is that where COVID came from? How does it actually link through? So nature's quite a big thing of how do we actually preserve and tackle climate change through biodiversity. Energy transitions, looking at actually clean power. How do we move away from some of the carbon areas? How do we go on to clean road transport and sort of finance as well? So all these sorts of things are coming out from COP. And again, you're saying, well, yeah, okay, great. Why are you going on about this? Well, what happens at COP is UK or I are probably a good case in point. We go there, we promote things, and all governments are looking for announceables. So if you pick up on these sorts of things, typically what governments are wanting to do is showcase the research that's going on and actually say, as well as this fantastic research, look at us, aren't we great? We're also announcing new funding opportunities. So it's always worthwhile just tapping into these, having a look and seeing if there's anything that's being announced, even if it's not coming directly. So it's an intention to do something and launch a campaign and things. It could lead to funding opportunities in somewhere where you can apply and work internationally. So these things are actually really quite important to look into. And these happen every single year, different countries and different focuses ever so slightly. So, you know, I would be a strong supporter of, you know, if you're wanting to get into these things, where's the money going to come from? Who's going to be doing it? How do I tap into these areas? And governments do like to be, you know, demonstrate their impacts at COP. So that's it from me. Hopefully that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and hopefully, you know, everyone at whatever stage you are in your career will have taken something away that you may not have known. And as I said, I am around if you have questions. Doesn't have to be just for NERC. Do get in contact. I'd be delighted to point them in the right direction, and anything I can do to help facilitate and catalyse your research collaborations, let me know. Thank you.